Hello everybody and welcome back to QuipScope. It's the show where we take a look at a newly released game and talk about what our experience have been with it so far. Probably in not that long because, you know, it's just a little snapshot of our thoughts. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
Hi Peter.
Hi.
Was it 1999 Crash 3?
Crash 3 was like 98, I think.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
2020 Crash 4.
Yeah.
How agonizing has this wait been for you for a proper sequel?
I mean, in a way, it's not been that agonizing. I'm worried now that Crash 3 was 99, but we'll just move on. I'm sure we'll be corrected in the comments if so. I don't think it was too agonizing, actually, because I think the original trilogy is quite a neat little package. I think like when The Wrath of Cortex came out, which was the first true sequel to the original trilogy, I was interested and thought this could be good, and then I realised that it wasn't when I played it at a friend's house. But then I just kind of came to terms with it there and then, that okay, that's it now. Crash was good, and now it's probably not.
You just got to be disappointed, and that's you.
Yeah, and the Insane trilogy, like, you know, has tided me over in the meantime, but This is a whole different beast, I would say.
Yes. So it's about time.
It is.
Is the full name of the game, and it's also true. It is about time.
Clever.
So how on earth is it? Is it good?
I think it's really good. I think obviously we should go into this knowing that I'm a big Crash fan, or certainly of the original trilogy anyway, and I'm a big fan, more broadly speaking, of like PS1 platformer, you know, cartoony platformers. So that probably is important in terms of, you should bear that in mind, because I think new players going into this game might not have as good a time as I've had, and we'll get into that. But the first thing that struck me was just how beautiful this game is. I think it makes the Insane trilogy look hideous almost.
Really?
Not quite hideous, but I think it really has its own look. And I'm not saying the Insane trilogy was ever, you know, an absolute work of beauty by which all other games should be compared, but you know, in terms of like for like, I think everything is very cartoony and sort of painterly, whereas in the Insane trilogy, you know, you had like realistic fur and water with like ripples, whereas this game, I think, feels, you know, I think in the same way that you could say The Last of Us or Uncharted is like playing through a movie, aside from the very long gunplay segments, which wouldn't make it into a movie with just a guy standing behind a crate shooting. In that same sense, I think Crash 4 is just like a Saturday morning cartoon in terms of its visual style, its sound design, even like the dialogue. I think it's really well written, actually. I've laughed out loud at a couple of things. Like, I think it's genuinely quite entertaining. And you've got these, you know, quite larger than life dastardly villains with, you know, silly evil plans. I think it's really it's just very fun, and I don't just mean from a gameplay perspective. I think just the whole style of the thing is just fun, which is really nice.
Excellent. And in this one, you not only play as Crash, but you play as Coco, right? In the main sections, that is.
You do. So in Crash 3, that's the only time Coco was playable, and it was in specific missions. And then in the Insane trilogy, they made Coco playable for pretty much the entire game. But with this game, this is the first time in a non-remade game that Coco has been playable for the entirety, which is nice. But not only that, you also get to play as Dingo Dial and Cortex himself, Neo Cortex, and also Torna Bandicoot from a different reality. Torna was Crash's girlfriend from the first game, who he was trying to rescue from Cortex. So there are all these different characters you can play as. Crash and Coco play exactly the same. They're just different. You know, they just look different, but they're the same character effectively. But Torna has a completely different playstyle. Cortex does. Dingo Dial does. You know, Torna's got like a grappling hook and stuff. She's like more of an action hero kind of character. Cortex has got this ray gun that can turn enemies into platforms, like bouncy platforms, and you actually use them to platform around the level, which is pretty crazy. Nice. And Dingo Dial he's got like this air gun that lets him hover. I don't know if you ever played the Star Wars Lego games.
Yes.
And R2-D2 had that hover ability.
Yeah.
It's just like that. That's exactly what it's like. But the best thing about that is that with Torna, Cortex, and Dingo Dial, their missions they're called timeline missions, and the whole hook of it is that you play through a level with Crash or Coco, and then later on in the game you will unlock a side story that is associated with that level that you played a while ago, and you'll go back and play it, and it will show Dingo Dial, Cortex, or Torna going through a different part of the level, and then where their section ends, they quite often they'll hit a switch, or they'll destroy a thing, or they'll do something, which then it cuts back to Crash and Coco where you were when you played that level the first time round, and a thing changes in the environment that you realise, oh, that's how I was able to get through that drawbridge, because Dingo Dial pressed the button and the drawbridge came down. So it's it's a bit like Time Splitters 3 in that sense,
right? Where
you realise oh, that was me the whole time doing that, you know. And that's the main. I think that's one of the things I like the most about this game is that there's so much to it. There's timeline missions. There are so many different gems to collect within a level. So you get a gem for getting 20% of the fruit, 40% of the fruit, or 80% of the fruit in a level. You get a gem for hitting all of the boxes. There's a hidden gem in every level that you just have to find that's normally hidden behind scenery and stuff. There's the inverted mode, which is it's like inverted mode, if you see what they did there.
Oh, that's very clever.
Very clever indeed. So you go back and the level is flipped, it's mirrored, but as well as that, there's been a visual change as well. So it's they've added sepia or wireframe, or there's one where the whole world is just grey or very, very pale white, and you can't make out some of the platforms. And if you spin as Crash, he'll fling paint out everywhere, and everything nearby will suddenly get coloured in again, so you can then see the world and platform more easily.
Okay, a bit like the Unfinished Swan.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah. Then there's also a gem for completing a level in 3 deaths or less.
You mean fewer?
I mean fewer, yeah. And all of those gems, three lives, all the crates, all the fruit, they're doubled up by, you have to do those in inverted mode as well. So that's 8 gems or more for every single level. So there's a lot of replay value. But as far as trying to complete a level without dying more than 3 times is concerned, oh boy, this is where I think new players to Crash will struggle in terms of enjoying this game, because it is very difficult, I think.
Right.
I mean, I think, to be fair, I think it depends on how you're playing. So I've found it very difficult, but only because what I've wanted to do in every level, another thing you can collect in every level, much in a Tony Hawk style, is a secret tape. So there's a VHS tape hidden in every level. But in order to collect that tape, you have to reach the point that tape is in the level in a single life, which sometimes they're 2/3 of the way through, and this is, as I say, not an easy game. So I've sunk a lot of time trying to get those before I move on to a next level, because when you get those tapes, there's a whole other part to the game as well, which is maybe my favourite thing of all. The reason they're VHS tapes is because they are videos that Neo Cortex took of Crash when he created him in 1996. They're training missions that he has constructed out of crates for you to bounce through and hop over and stuff. So they're assault courses. They're really hard, but they're really fun. And again, the script in this game is brilliant, because there's some really fun callbacks. Cortex is talking over the tannoy a lot, and he's interacting with other villains as well, who are up in his observation room. He's talking to N Brio and N Jin and stuff. So that's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really nice callbacks. So it's a difficult game, and I think if you're just running through it without worrying about collecting boxes and stuff and just focusing on the hazards, you probably won't struggle too much. So I would say my advice to a new player would be to go through this game very casually and not worry too much about trying to 100% the thing, because God, trying to platinum this game is going to be absolutely horrendous. I wouldn't recommend it to you to go for platinum 176.
Oh no, probably
on this.
Probably not. I might be mistaken, and obviously this doesn't affect the difficulty of collecting those things and doing things without dying and so on. But there are two different approaches to lives this time.
Yeah.
Sort of a traditional one that I imagine you're playing on, where if you lose all your lives, you get a game over, and then just a sort of more modernized, slightly easier version where you can just respawn ad nauseum.
Yeah, I think that's why they've added gems in for collect all the fruit. Because otherwise, if you go into a mode where there aren't any lives and you've got constant respawns, what's the point in collecting lives?
Yeah,
because
that's true.
So in that mode, when there is a life crate ordinarily in classic mode, which is what I am playing in, instead it's a big Wumpa crate which you open up, and it's got like loads and loads of fruit in it. And you also get those in classic mode if you've collected a life and from a crate and then you die. When you reach that crate again, instead it's a big Wumpa crate. So that is there in terms of at least people aren't going to be game overing all the time. So that's another thing I would recommend to new players. But to be fair, I don't think I'm playing in classic mode and I've not game overed once, despite the fact that I've sunk dozens and dozens and dozens of lives into certain levels. Because it's kind of weird the way that the fruit counter works. So if I'm on 98 fruit and then I hit a checkpoint, if then before the next hazard there are a couple of fruit, I will get a life because I'll reach 100. Then if I fall off that cliff, normally in Classic Crash, your fruit counter would be at 1 or 2 or 3 because it's ticked over into the new life, but you would lose the life. But when you go back to a checkpoint, everything resets, including what your counter was, your fruit counter at that point. So you're back to like 98 fruit, and you collect those 2 fruit again before you get to the next pit or whatever, and you get a life again. So you don't lose lives as much as you think you would, because of the way fruit counting works and checkpoints and things. So that's good, but the loading times for each level are quite long.
Oh, okay.
But you'd think, once you get into a level, you're away, so that's fine. But unfortunately, if I'm going for, say, those VHSs, or I want to complete a level in 3 deaths or less, or fewer, if I was to die early on in the level, I would want to restart so that tape will still be there when I get to that point. If you restart the level, it goes through the entire loading screen again, even though you're right there at the start of the level.
Oh, okay, that's annoying.
That's really, really annoying. So you can be dying on a very early hazard, and you have to do a full restart of the level if you want that tape to still be there. And you have to sit through that loading screen again and again and again, and it's really long, and it's really annoyed me. And the most annoying thing about that is that number one, if you're doing a time trial and you fall down a cliff, it just pops you right back to the start of the level, like instantly. So it's clearly capable of doing it. And number two, in the classic Crash games, you had things called death routes, where about halfway through the level, there would be a platform you could jump onto, and it would take you to a secret area if you got there in 1 life, much like these tapes that I'm trying to collect. And if you died before the first checkpoint and therefore respawned right at the start of the level again, it would still count as your first life. Like the developers knew, you're still doing the level in 1, so we're not going to make you exit the level and come back in again. If you've not hit a checkpoint yet and you die and respawn, you're still on 1 life, so you can still get this death route because you're doing the whole level. So that's frustrating, because that should be implemented into the game. So what I really want them to do is either optimize their loading times, or make it so that the tape doesn't disappear if you die right at the start of the level and get booted back to the beginning again. Just let me, if I'm going from the start, let the tape still be there, whether or not I've restarted or not, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think the only other thing I have to say is, whoever composed this music is a genius, because for people who've played a lot of the old Crash games, you will hear so many different sort of motifs and riffs threaded throughout these levels from levels of Crash past, like not just the Crash theme tune or the Cortex theme tune, but just, you know, some random level from Crash 1 where you're going through a temple, or, you know, the one where you ride a polar bear in Crash 2. It's really cleverly done. In fact, what they've also done is include character themes blended into. So if you play through a level as Crash, and it'll be like this sort of pirate shanty or whatever, then you'll go back to that level later on as Cortex, and it's still playing the same pirate shanty music that you had initially, but they've also managed to work Cortex's theme tune in there as well. Okay. So it's really clever the way they've done all this music. So yeah, I think that's actually one of the biggest triumphs of the game for sure.
Amazing. So on the whole, is it what you wanted and is it what you expected?
On the whole, it's more than I wanted and expected. The animation, the story, the voice acting, the music, it's super fun. Just even aside from the gameplay, it's just fun. So yeah,
excellent,
really good game.
Anyway, Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. Crash Bandicoot more, it's like fine wine.
Whoa,
yeah.
Whoa, hang on.
Oh yeah.
Jeez, Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. More like Crash Bandicoot 4, no. It's about time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks. Nice. You got any more?
That's one that we just used multiple times in the Valentine's Day videos, isn't it?
Yeah, we do 4 quite a lot.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's low-hanging Wumpa fruit.
It sure is. Okay, are we all done?
We're done, I think.
Amazing. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back with a new QuipScope very soon, probably about Star Wars.
Yes, we will.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.